What up, YouTube? Sometimes MGTOW like to talk about the collapse of society and how it's all just going to come crumbling down because men are going their own way and so uh, they're working less and other sorts of things. But I don't believe in that. So for one, if you take a look at economist stats, you see that basically nothing is really changing, and or things are sometimes looking up when it comes to economy and government and things like this in America. Now, that doesn't mean that MGTOW isn't picking up, and it doesn't mean that divorce rates haven't been dropping. But the thing is that you're going to find that MGTOW men just the same are paying all their bills. Actually, they're doing a better job now at paying bills because they don't have women sort of ripping their wallets out of their ass and causing them to have all sorts of troubles with that. And so we're actually accomplishing more as MGTOW for society, which is ironic, of course. Uh, though consumerism is suffering. Um, and men are still going to work. That's the thing. We're all still we're going to work. I'm right now. I'm at 4 hours a week, but most MGTOW I know are actually doing a normal job and contributing a lot to the tax system, etc. So I wanted to make this video because uh, as a reminder and to sort of keep this in the discourse, because I've noticed it is a trend that the blue pill lifestyle is still prominent. It's like you can't you can't create that change when nothing changes. And just because you go monk and swear off women, it, it's not really changing a lot. It's just changing some things. Uh, the the real solution, I'm not even gonna say solution. I would say the real change that that MGTOW are looking for. If you're one of those MGTOW who actually genuinely is really sick of the American system and you're tired of the plantation, if you really want to see it suffer, if you want to see it shrink and lose its power to the point where we can begin to rebuild it in the image of ourselves, in the image of MGTOW, uh, and that's really what this is about in a way. Is it's very much, I mean, I know that there's a religion around this and everything, but actually, there's an allegory of, God creating man in His own image. Um, it's an allegory for civilization. The God being the central, uh, divine or defining uh, ethos for how to construct uh, man, which in this case is an allegory for civilization. And so the God creates the man, and so to do this, you necessarily have to destroy the reigning God. You can't allow it to live. So if you actually are one of those MGTOWs concerned with changing society, American society in particular, you have to kill the previous God. You can't just let what there is continue. And I suppose you might loosely define that as, um, ironically, very Christian. Uh, you would think a lot of Americans are under the illusion that capitalism reigns in the U.S., but that's a lie. Uh, the irony, of course, once you actually go out of the country, is you realize that communist countries are actually more capitalist than America, and you're and what that actually means is there is in America that they they have what you call neoliberalism, which is a little like communism. It's actually the very thing that people demonize when ignorant people say I hate communism in America. What they're actually saying is I hate neoliberalism, and what they're actually saying is I hate neoliberalism of America, uh, and they don't even realize it. They're projecting that. I could go into that, but we'll skip over it for now, or I'll just touch on it really quickly. Neoliberalism is basically where you flood the market with a product, and instead of making that product competitive, you actually start buying up officials and passing laws that suppress the market outside of your product. And so essentially you force, that's a kind of communism in a way. And it's whereas I live in a communist country, and the function of the market here is actually no matter who you are, you can start to sell things on the street without regulations. It's just pure capitalism. So that's how it works over here. Uh, anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. You have to uproot the reigning god and uh, and put in the MGTOW god and create man. This is the way to do that. You have to cut off supply lines, which actually means necessarily you have to quit living a blue pill lifestyle, because the blue pill lifestyle is the lifeblood of the American system, which is a feminist, neoliberal matriarchy. It's completely gynocentric in everything that it does. Still not as bad as, say, Canada or like Sweden or something, but worse in some ways. Uh, and one thing that I would also add is that if you're someone who is kind of proud of America, or you love where it came from and everything, just really you should take note of the fact that it's nothing like what it should be. Like, for example, the Revolutionary War was started over a 10% tax on tea. They picked up guns and started shooting government officials because of tea. A 10% tax on tea. Okay? Understand, a well-regulated militia is people with guns, not a military. And it's just there to defend the country. It's not there to invade other countries. All of this is denied to you by that government. Okay, so I really don't want to go on an anti-government rant here. So in a way though, if you're looking for that big change, it starts with changing the blue pill lifestyle. Now, if you're alone, if you're living alone, or you have a roommate, and you're paying rent, you're paying for your property, you're paying your taxes, you're paying all of this stuff, it's all feeding the system. You're going to work 40 hours a week or 30 hours a week. All of this is, you're paying into your pension. All of this is feeding that system. And and they do incremental turn-ups of inflation to keep the system going. It's not falling apart. So the change that you would, if you really want to see change, it actually comes from a total overhaul of your life and minimalizing to the point where you can actually call it red pill living. And red pill living very much will, you can find, uh, in a lot of cases Russians do this, but they don't really do it because they go super red pill and then turn blue pill quickly. That's why you can find a lot of Russians with really nice cars and, basically the idea is they all live in one place together. Uh, you can find like, 12 people families in like a two-bedroom house, and because of that you can find really young Russians who have nice cars because nobody's having to like pay a lot for housing, and actually the biggest expense for living, uh, in America is definitely the cost of, housing for your body, and all of the little things that begin to add up because you don't have money. Everything costs a lot more when you're not rich, which is of course ironic. So if you want to get a truly red pill, lifestyle, you actually have to drop your living expense to near zero. And the only way that you can do that is by living with a bunch of other people. And the only way you're going to be able to accomplish that long term is if you reach out to other MGTOW and you choose to live with them. And this sounds hard, but I believe in the MGTOW out there. You just gotta go and find them and reduce that cost, reduce your living costs, so to the point where, I mean, really what we're looking at is, this is a thieves guild to some extent. It's an implicit thieves guild. It's very much you're, hacking the matrix. You're basically, because this is how government runs. It looks at what what a normal person can do, how and what a normal person can sustain, and it makes it possible for you to do that if you work exactly the amount of hours that they want you to work. And in the American system, they've got this dialed in very, very neatly, and actually, um, they dial it a little bit too high in America, and that's how they keep you going. They make it just uncomfortable and just out of your reach to get ahead, and and then watch people scramble to catch up with something that they're designed to not be able to catch up with respect to finance. And this is how the American system works. And so if you subvert that, by putting a ton of MGTOW in a shanty house, uh, they don't really have the ability to account for that. And if enough MGTOW actually participate in this practice, uh, they they may try to account for that, but they will punish everyone else very severely to do it, uh, or they will cause, an uprising, of course, which they can't afford. So when it comes to, change, MGTOW have to get into the idea that you if you want change, you're actually going to have to be a proactive participant, and that does necessarily mean, this isn't just like MGTOW activism. I'm not just like go out there and preach MGTOW. No, this is MGTOW activism, but MGTOW activism necessarily helps you by, its very nature, because it's all about actually helping you and implicitly helping other men. When you can compile, your your thieves guild, uh, and the reason why I use that analogy, I get sidetracked so easily. The reason why I use that analogy is that, uh, you're relative to everyone around you. So, just take a random suburban house. Everyone around you is they are under government control, and they have that dial on them where it's just out of their reach to be able to handle what they have, but it keeps them going. When you move 12 guys into one of these places designed for 2 or 3, uh, you you're effectively producing too much for the system to be able to handle. It can't account for you, and it relatively it looks like thievery, relatively, because you're breaking the system. Uh, so that's why I say that it's a thieves guild, and also when you get enough guys together with minds to do this, you're all going to start networking about ways to build finance, and you can do this all legally. Everything can be above board, but everybody can be having the same mindset about money, where you're all sort of manipulating the system. And so, and if you're, and here, and there's so much power in this because of MGTOW. The power is that there's no women interfering with that process. And normally, if you try this, some women will come in, invade, they will start destroying finances, they will start pulling guys out of this system, and ultimately just breaking everything down. That's essentially what women do, and that's essentially what's happening perpetually, is in the West, where women are breaking down the system, and that's why it looks so sort of undead and decrepified. And then there's a few people who don't fall victim to this, because they're very wise men. So if you're a MGTOW, you've obviously got some reference of wisdom. You can climb out of this by doing this, and with this kind of MGTOW activism, you can pull yourself out of the system that's designed to keep you oppressed. And that's really what I'm sort of advocating here. You want to break the system, and you want others to do it, and you want and the other thing is, when you talk with some other guys and they see what are you guys up to? What is this? They'll see this guild and this group, whatever, this what you're doing in this house, and they'll think, well, I should do this too. What are you guys really up to? And hey, MGTOW, here's some red pills. And I mean, obviously you're gonna want to keep track of who's in the house and everything, and know all these guys to some extent. But once you can account for everyone, it's a free for all. You're basically going to set all of each other free. Even if each of you only works 10 hours a week or something, 20 hours a week, you all got a part-time job, you're still way in the black, because you're putting too many bodies into one place, into essentially a financial socket. So yeah, if you're one of those guys who really wants to see change, those are probably some of the changes that this is just what I see, you'll have to make, and then you might actually see some change. But besides that, this is a good way to get ahead. It's a good way to bring about just your own benefit. The world be damned, you're still, if you can handle putting yourself into a MGTOW colony, then you're going to be a lot better off for it, financially, stress-wise, and you'll probably find some good friends in something like that too, because MGTOW are pretty reasonable, uh, mostly seem like pretty nice guys who have a good head on their shoulders. So, yeah, it's something to think about if you want to change the world and help yourself out. Uh, start thinking about ways to incorporate red pill living. I mean, ask yourself a question or questions like, what would you prefer the world look like? What would the world look like if red pill was the norm? How would society be organized? And um, I do hear some guys, there was a comment. It's a hippity hoppity, women are property. It's like that's just comedy, but I mean, some guys are kind of on the kick that there's, that's one way to look at it, and I think that it's good to tool around with ideas about where women belong in a red pill society. It's something that is a serious question, and uh, if we're really trying to change our lives, as long as you remain in a blue pill uh, circumstance, and this is what they want. I mean, they want you to be blue pilled, and they want you to stay blue pilled, and they want you to live a blue pill lifestyle, which more or less is basically they make you pay for your kennel. That's what we're looking at. They're just, here's your kennel. It's got all the things that a woman loves in it. It's got nice countertops, and you've got your polished sink, and look how spacious the bathroom is, and here's a giant mirror to look at, and I mean, I recently, so I'm vegan, and I recently realized when it comes to food, I don't need I don't need fucking shit. I don't need a refrigerator. I don't need a stove. I don't need a blender. I could live without all of this on basically I make a now I do use these things, but I don't need them. Uh, I could live on avocado seeds, kombu or kelp, uh, um, chia seeds. Did I say avocado seeds? I meant avocados. Um, Pumpkin seeds, bananas. Basically, my diet is raw and free. It's not free, but it's fucking cheap. And I live very happy and healthy. What else? What else do I eat? I mean, I have supplements, but most of them could be removed. Like, I supplement selenium, but I could replace it with Brazil nuts easily. I'm gonna buy some pretty soon. Oats, oats, and I don't even have a hot water thing. I don't even need that. I mean, you can do cold brew. You can do what do they call it? Um, Overnight oats. So you just soak it in a. I usually soak mine in kefir. Put some cinnamon on it. But yeah, I mean, it really is the case that this whole thing is designed for women, and if you're willing to pay for it, then you're paying for that system. And let me tell you, if you're in America, okay, you probably, I don't know how much you pay for your internet. It's probably like $100 a month or something. My internet is free in my apartment, and my apartment is under $200 a month. Um, the internet, my phone service, you should know, my phone service costs me uh 200. So my phone service every month, this is internet included, I pay $10 a month. So um just understand that America is ripping you the fuck off, and uh you know there, and this is what I'm talking about when I talk about neoliberalism. because Comcast and a few other companies have, it's not a free market. You must understand they've broken everything to the point where they're just buying officials and forcing a single market on you. There's a reason why you're paying massive amounts of money, and a reason why I don't have to pay that much. And it's because there actually is a free market over here where people are forced to compete if they want to have success with business. So just be, try to enlighten yourself to the idea that America isn't designed for MGTOW, and that if you're really looking for that change for the plantation to be overhauled and everyone get freer and you have a better life by even just personal growth within the system, it necessarily does take this change that you'll have to make to live red pill. You're it's not as simple as just removing the gaslighting psychopath from your life. She's a part of the problem, but it's not where it ends. So I just thought it was important to make this video, and I hope that MGTOW will begin moving to that proactive stage from the nihilistic one that we've been at, where we just point out, yeah, we should destroy this. There's I would say that the best form of destruction is creation. You build a new structure, and this is proven throughout history. What has Christianity done but knock down temples and burn books and then build a temple on top of it? That's if there isn't anything that you want to preserve from the plantation model, then start destroying by creating, and create your life. Good luck, fellas.